Jacob Roach didn't pull punches when describing the disaster surrounding Shedeur Sanders. This wasn't just a bad outing. It was a coaching failure from start to finish. Watching the Browns' game against the Ravens, it became clear Sanders wasn't just fighting an elite defense. He was left alone by his own sideline. No hot reads. No protection help. No pre-snap adjustments.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
The offensive design didn't just ignore his strengths. It actively worked against them. Even with both starting tackles sidelined early, the game plan didn't shift. Sanders was forced to hold onto the ball or make doomed throws under siege. And yet, despite all that, the film tells a deeper truth. Sanders didn't shy away. He made NFL-level throws with touch and anticipation. Warner saw a quarterback who can read pressure, stay composed, and attack vertically, traits that don't appear in a box score but scream pro potential on film. Roach emphasized that the biggest issue wasn't Sanders' ability, but how little help he got from the coaching booth. When raw stats and public opinion clash with film evidence, this game becomes a case study in how talent can be obscured by dysfunction, and why patience, not panic, should define Sanders' trajectory. Kurt Warner has seen a lot of quarterbacks struggle. He's also seen what greatness looks like on tape before the stats ever catch up. So when he breaks down a rookie's rough performance and still comes out praising their NFL-level throws, you listen. That's exactly what happened when Warner took a deep dive into Shedeur Sanders' rocky debut against the Ravens. If you just glanced at the box score, you saw 4 completions on 16 attempts. That's the headline number that started circulating online. 4 for 16. A performance that, to most fans and analysts, screams failure. But what Warner's breakdown revealed was a completely different reality. One where the quarterback wasn't the problem. One where, despite the stat line, the talent on film told a much more promising story. Let's start with the basics. Sanders was thrown into a nightmare situation. He wasn't just up against a tough Ravens defense. He was up against a game plan that gave him 0 lifelines. According to Warner's film review, there were no hot routes built into the passing scheme. None. That alone is a disaster when you're facing pressure, especially for a rookie quarterback. Hot routes are the emergency exits of modern offense, and Sanders was essentially locked in a burning building with no escape plan. Then there was the protection issue, or more accurately, the total collapse of protection. Both starting tackles went down early in the game, and instead of adjusting, the coaching staff stuck to a plan that clearly wasn't designed to protect a quarterback under fire. Warner laid it out clearly. The offensive design didn't account for what was happening on the field. No modifications to the protection. No shift to quicker reads. Just a flawed, static approach that left Sanders exposed. And yet, here's the kicker. Despite all that, Warner saw something real. Something rare. He saw throws that looked like they came from a polished pro. Deep vertical shots. Anticipation throws under pressure. Tight window placement with touch. That's not what you expect from a quarterback who's supposedly not ready. That's the stuff that evaluators look for when trying to identify future starters. Talent that pops off the screen when everything else is going wrong. That's why Warner's breakdown hit so hard. It wasn't about sugarcoating a bad game. It was about exposing just how much of Sanders' performance was sabotaged by coaching decisions and a lack of support. Jacob Roach from Barking Browns saw the same thing. He echoed Warner's sentiment and added more context. Roach pointed out that the vertical aggression Sanders showed, his willingness to attack downfield, was something you rarely see from a rookie in that kind of environment. Yes, he held on to the ball too long on some plays. Yes, there were moments of indecision. But when you consider that he was working behind a damaged defensive line, with no preparation, and likely with receivers he hadn't had much chemistry with, it's no surprise that some plays broke down. The key is what he still managed to do. Big-time throws. Real NFL stuff. And that's where the numbers completely fail to tell the story. Because if you looked at that game and assumed Sanders doesn't have what it takes based on 4 completions, you missed the whole point. The film shows the opposite. That in the middle of the chaos, there's a quarterback who can play. Not one who might be good someday, but one who already has the instincts, the arm, and the mindset. It's just buried under bad coaching. That's what makes the next game so important. The upcoming matchup against the Raiders is more than just another start. It's a test of whether this team actually learned anything from the disaster against the Ravens. Because this time, there's no excuse. Sanders will have a full week to prepare. The staff knows what went wrong. They've seen the film. They've heard the criticism. Now it's their job to put together a plan that actually gives him a shot to succeed. That means building in hot reads. That means designing plays that let Sanders get the ball out quickly. That means adjusting the scheme to his strengths, especially his ability to throw deep with touch and confidence. Because if you're not doing that, you're not coaching. You're just setting someone up to fail. There's no question that the Browns' season hasn't gone according to plan. And in a way, that gives Sanders a unique window. The pressure's off in terms of playoff contention, but the pressure is on when it comes to development. These next few weeks could shape how the team sees him going forward. Is he just a fill-in? Or is he someone you start building around? Warner and Roach are both telling you, there's something to build on here. The tools are there. The instincts are there. What's been missing is support. And it's not like this is a mystery anymore. The blueprint is right there. Warner showed us where the game plan failed. Roach explained how the lack of structure made Sanders' job impossible. The stat line tells a lie. The tape tells the truth. That truth? Shedeur Sanders isn't broken. The system is. And that's why this isn't just about one bad outing. It's about how quickly people are willing to discard talent because of numbers they didn't bother to question. 4 for 16 doesn't tell you that a quarterback was making anticipation throws into tight coverage. It doesn't tell you that he was getting hit on nearly every drawback. It doesn't tell you that his first read was often completely covered because the route tree gave him no options. What it does do is create a false narrative. One that starts to spiral if it goes unchallenged. But this time, people are challenging it because the film doesn't lie. So here we are. The Raiders game is looming. The offensive line might still be banged up, but there's a chance to actually plan for that. To adjust protections. To create easier reads. To set Sanders up to show what he's capable of when he's not under constant siege. Because let's be clear, if he's making NFL throws under pressure, with no prep, with no hot routes, and no help, what do you think he's going to do with time, rhythm, and a structured offense? That's what this next game is about. Not redemption. Not revenge. Just clarity. Either the Browns are serious about seeing what they have in Shedeur Sanders, or they're wasting what could be a legitimate long-term asset. And if they're smart, they'll stop looking at box scores and start watching the tape, like Warner did, like Roach did, like any coach who wants to win in the future should be doing right now. Because the signs are there. The flashes are real. The talent is obvious. Shedeur doesn't need a miracle. He just needs a game plan. If you've been following this story and want to keep seeing breakdowns that actually go deeper than surface stats, hit like. Share this with someone who's been too focused on completion percentages. Drop a comment with your take. Are you buying what Warner saw on tape? And if you haven't yet, subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in this rookie's NFL journey. Because the numbers told one story, but the film told the truth. Let's go back to that Ravens game for a second. You saw the tweets, the takes, the bust comments flying around after Shedeur Sanders put up a stat line that looked like something out of a preseason disaster. For completions, 16 attempts. That's all some people needed to see before closing the book on a quarterback who, according to those numbers, wasn't just struggling, he was drowning. But the problem with stats like that? They don't show you what actually happened. And that's where Kurt Warner stepped in. When a Hall of Famer takes time out of his week to break down film of a rookie quarterback, you know there's something there. He could have just said, rough game, rookie mistakes. But he didn't. Warner took a surgical approach to every snap Sanders played, and what he found wasn't a disaster. It was dysfunction. Not from the quarterback, from everything around him. Let's talk about those hot routes again, because it can't be overstated. In the NFL, if your quarterback is facing a blitz, there has to be a built-in option. Someone who breaks off their route and becomes an immediate target. A lifeline. That's standard. It's not a luxury. It's necessary. And yet, Warner pointed out that Sanders had none of that. Blitz comes? No hot read. No dump off. Just pressure and a collapsing pocket with no plan B. That's a nightmare scenario for any quarterback, let alone a rookie playing in his first meaningful NFL game. How is a quarterback supposed to develop if the offensive design doesn't even give him a fighting chance? The truth is he can't. And yet, even in that chaos, Warner still saw moments that made him pause, made him rewind the tape, made him go, that's a Sunday throw. Shedeur's arm talent? It's real. There were deep outs that required timing and velocity. There were downfield shots that needed touch and confidence. There were flashes of patience, of willingness to step up into the pressure and try to deliver, even when the line was crumbling around him. And that's what separates this game from being a total wash. Warner didn't sugarcoat things. Sanders did hold the ball too long sometimes. He was hesitant on a few reads. That happened. But those moments didn't come from fear. They came from waiting for something, anything, to develop. He was looking for a receiver who could break open. And in this offense, those routes weren't there. Now throw in the fact that both of Sanders' offensive tackles were out. Gone. Injured early in the game. And no adjustments were made. None. No shifts to protection. No extra blockers. No tight end help. Just the same flawed plan executed with backup linemen and zero in-game adaptation. What exactly was he supposed to do? Jacob Roach from Barking Browns highlighted the same points. He called out the poor support. He dug into the play calling and exposed just how little the scheme did to put Sanders in position to succeed. Roach was clear. The rookie made mistakes, but the circumstances around him were the real problem. And even so, there were throws on that tape, throws under pressure, throws off platform, throws into tight coverage, that looked like they belonged to a veteran. That's the part you can't coach. That's natural talent. This is why film matters. Because if all you saw was 4 for 16, you missed the fact that Shedeur Sanders was trying to do the impossible. And he almost made it work. So now we're heading into the next game against the Raiders. This time, there's no excuse. He's had a full week of prep. He's taken first-team reps. The team has seen what happens when they send him out there with no plan. This game is about redemption, yes, but not just for Sanders. It's a test for the coaching staff. Have they learned anything? Are they ready to support the quarterback they've thrown into the fire? Because if the Browns come out with the same broken scheme, if Sanders is once again left out there with no hot reads, busted protection, and no game plan tailored to his strengths, it's not on him anymore. It's on them. The truth is, Shedeur's strengths are clear. He's got the arm. He's got the vision to look downfield. He's aggressive. He's not playing scared. That vertical mentality, wanting to push the ball, to go for the kill shot, that's not something you want to coach out of a guy. You want to support it. Build around it. Let's not forget, he didn't come into that Ravens game with a tailored plan. He came in because he had to. And still, amid all of that chaos, he threw with purpose. He tried to win. This Raiders game? It's his chance to show what happens when the pressure isn't overwhelming every single snap. When the offensive design doesn't sabotage him. When the team, for once, meets him halfway. And if they do? If they actually install a game plan that gives him quick reads, throws on rhythm, protection help, then we'll finally see what he looks like under real NFL conditions. Because that's the missing piece. That's what Warner saw. He didn't just see a struggling quarterback. He saw talent buried under dysfunction. He saw what happens when a young player is asked to do everything and still gives you something. And that's the real story, not the stat line, not the highlight reel of missed throws. The real story is that Shedeur Sanders stepped into a broken setup and showed flashes of what could be. Not hypothetical, someday potential. Real-time, in-game throws that only a few guys can make. The Browns need to decide what they want. Are they going to keep setting their quarterbacks up to fail? Or are they finally going to build something that lasts? Because this isn't just about one rookie quarterback. This is about a pattern. And right now, that pattern is failing young talent before it ever has a chance to grow. If they fix it, if they give Sanders the support that Warner and Roach say he needs, then we're not just talking about a guy trying to survive. We're talking about a guy you can build around. And if they don't, then let's stop blaming quarterbacks for outcomes that were sealed before the ball was ever snapped. Sanders has the tools. The film proves that. The arm strength, the field awareness, the confidence to go downfield. He just needs a team that knows how to use them. So if you're someone who cares about the full story, not just the ESPN headline, not just the stat sheet, then this is the kind of game you circle. Because it's not just another chance to prove the doubters wrong. It's a chance to prove that talent, when supported correctly, can thrive. Shedeur Sanders doesn't need hype. He doesn't need excuses. He just needs a chance. A real one. With real coaching. Because 4 for 16 didn't tell the whole the tape did. Let's not forget what this is really about. It's not just about whether Shedeur Sanders can rebound from one rough game. It's about how easily narratives get written. Fast, shallow, and without context. A single box score drops, the takes go viral, and suddenly a player's whole future is getting redefined in real time. That Ravens game? It was never just about performance. It was about exposure. Not of Sanders, but of the coaching, the structure, and the decisions that led to that collapse. Because here's what the tape showed, what Warner proved when he broke it all down. Sanders didn't get beat by Baltimore. He got let down by his own sideline. Kurt Warner didn't mince words. He pointed to the absence of hot reads, the total lack of quick-release options, the broken protection that left Sanders hanging on nearly every down. And this wasn't subtle critique. This was a quarterback-turned-analyst calling out coaching decisions as the core problem. That's the real takeaway. Shedeur wasn't playing scared. He wasn't playing sloppy. He was trying to play quarterback in an environment that made success nearly impossible. And even then he delivered moments, real moments, that made you stop and think, wait, he just made that throw. Arm strength? It's there. Touch? On display. Vertical aggression? No question. Sanders wasn't dinking and dunking, trying to boost his completion rate. He was looking downfield, taking shots, trying to make plays that mattered. And yeah, sometimes that meant holding the ball too long. Sometimes that meant forcing something that wasn't quite there. But let's be honest. What was the alternative? The scheme didn't give him anything easy. There were no bailout options. No safe throws dialed up when things got hectic. The system didn't help him manage pressure. It invited it. And that's the core problem Jacob Roach focused on too. He emphasized how the coaching staff failed to account for the collapse of both tackles. The loss of edge protection should have triggered a massive pivot in game planning, quicker reads, designed rollouts, moving the pocket, screens something. Instead, they left the structure untouched. Left Sanders exposed. And when the results were predictably bad, the blame went to the rookie quarterback. Warner and Roach both saw through that. And now, more people are starting to. You don't go 4 for 16 and walk away with analysts still saying you showed signs of greatness, unless those signs were undeniable. That's what makes this situation different. Because usually a stat line like that is the end of the conversation. But in Sanders' case, it's just the beginning. The buzz surrounding the Raiders game isn't just hype, it's anticipation. Because now, for the first time, Sanders has a chance to go into a game with a plan. A real one. A full week of preparation, meaningful reps, and hopefully, a game script designed to match his strengths. No more excuses. If the staff comes in with the same broken system, it's not a learning moment, it's a choice. A deliberate refusal to give a young quarterback what he needs to succeed. But if they adjust, if they bring structure, tempo, and responsiveness to the offense, that's when we'll see what Shedeur Sanders really looks like with the lights on and the odds even. This game isn't just about development. It's about correction. It's a chance to rewrite a premature narrative, to show that the right environment does make a difference, and that Sanders, when protected and supported, is far more than what the Ravens game suggests. The key now is alignment. The coaching staff needs to align with the film, with the experts who saw what the numbers didn't show, with the talent that Sanders clearly has. Because we've seen this story go the other way. Talented quarterbacks entering the league with raw ability, only to be buried under bad schemes, bad support, and bad timing. And the NFL doesn't always give second chances. That's why this Raiders game matters so much. It's not about playoffs. It's not about salvaging a season. It's about finding out whether Sanders' flashes can turn into consistency when the situation isn't a total disaster. It's about progress, proof of concept. And let's be real, if he goes out there and performs well, people will forget about 4 for 16. Because the NFL moves fast and narratives flip just as fast. All it takes is a solid showing with structure behind him. And suddenly the conversation becomes, wait, how did everyone miss this? But for that to happen, the team has to give him a fighting chance. The good news? He's shown he's worth that investment. Not through padded stats or garbage time production, but through real throws, downfield, with velocity and vision, under pressure. That's what Warner saw. That's what Roach backed up. That's what fans who actually watch the tape are starting to realize. This isn't a quarterback problem. It's a context problem. And now, we're going to find out what happens when the context improves, just a little. If the line holds up even moderately better. If the scheme allows for some rhythm. If the coaching staff actually game plans for Sanders instead of plugging him into a broken system. That's when we'll see the full picture. Because this isn't just a test for Shedeur Sanders. It's a test for the Browns as an organization. Do they want to develop a quarterback with real upside? Or do they want to keep recycling passers until the next one eventually breaks through despite them? There's a real opportunity here, but it won't last forever. So as we head into this next game, watch closely, not just for the results, but for the setup. Is Sanders being given answers? Are the routes designed to beat pressure? Are there adjustments when the defense shifts? Because if they do all that, and he thrives, then we've got something. Something real. And if not, then at least we'll know who to blame. If you've been watching closely, if you saw the same things Warner saw on film, if you're tired of quarterbacks being defined by one stat line and no context, hit that like button. Share this with someone who only reads the box score. Drop a comment with your prediction for the Raiders game. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so you're here for the next twist in this story. Because the tape told us everything. Now it's time for the game plan to catch up.